Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be unboxing and reviewing TP-Link's new Deco XE70 Pro, which is also known as the Model AXE 4900. Now this is a Wi-Fi 6E mesh system, and if you've been following my channel, you might be asking yourself, wait a minute, didn't he already unbox and review a Pro version of TP-Link's Pro Wi-Fi 6E mesh system in the past? Well, if you're asking yourself that, you are correct. I did previously in a separate video review TP-Link's Deco XE75 Pro mesh system. Now after a bit of research and some testing, which of course you'll see later on in this video, the only real difference that I found, aside from the price, was the max speed that data could be transferred. Of course there probably are also some other hardware changes internally, but whether they're good or bad, overall pretty much everything seems the same as the XE75 Pro mesh system that I reviewed previously. Now from a cost perspective, the XE75 Pro mesh system that I reviewed previously retails for about $400 for a 3-pack unit, whereas this XE70 Pro mesh system with a 3-pack retails for $250, which is slightly cheaper, which I guess means that customers just have more options when it comes to cost. Now, like most of these mesh systems, if the 3-pack is too much for your needs, there is also a 2-pack and a single unit option, which is even cheaper. Now from a cost perspective, I know that isn't a huge difference, but if you are new to Wi-Fi 6E or if you're looking to upgrade your existing home Wi-Fi, this is definitely an option and a more affordable route that gives you more flexibility, better coverage, and lower latency when setting up your wireless network. Now as usual, stay tuned, and in this video we will unbox, install, and check out this all-new mesh system from TP-Link and see how well it works. Okay, so again, when I got this mesh system, I couldn't figure out what was so different about this XE70 Pro versus the XE75 Pro system that I'm currently using. They virtually have the same specs when you look at them online. They've got the same look and they're very much the same size and identical when you place them side to side. Now I will say though that I am still using the XE75 Pro system that I reviewed previously, and honestly it still works amazingly well. In fact, I don't even doubt that I can just take these XE70 Pros and just add these units to my existing mesh and they should just work just fine without any issues. However, because I am reviewing these and testing them out, I'm going to set them up in a brand new mesh system connected to my router to see how well they work independently. Now at first glance, the box for this XE70 Pro mesh system is a lot smaller than that of the previous XE75 Pro system that I unboxed in another video. Now that initially led me to believe that these might be a little bit smaller in size, but I was clearly wrong because they are exactly the same size as the XE75 Pro mesh system units. Now in the box, you will get 3 of these power plugs in order to power the 3 freestanding individual mesh units. On top of that, you will also get a single network cable which you can use to plug in the mesh unit that you identify as the main unit to your router. And then, other than that, you will also get an instruction manual that will walk you through the entire setup process to set up your mesh. Now, each of the 3 mesh units are factory wrapped to protect and keep them from any kind of damage during shipping. Each mesh is identical and weighs very little, and as you can see, they are pretty identical to the XE75 Pro mesh units. Now on each of these mesh units, you've got 2 1 gigabit ports as well as 1 advanced 2.5 gigabit port, which you can use to either set up a multi-gig wired backhaul between 2 mesh units for better and consistent speeds, or you can use it to connect devices like a NAS or network drive to take advantage of the speed connecting directly to the port itself. Now because this mesh does support gigabit plus speeds, it is ideal for gigabit plus and multi-gig internet service plans with speeds up to 2.5 gigabits per second. Now what's nice about this Wi-Fi 6E mesh system is the increased speed that you'll benefit from across your home. But unlike this XE75 Pro, which can accommodate speeds of up to 5.4 gigabits per second, this XE70 Pro specs with a max speed of up to 4.9 gigabits per second, which is slightly lower, which is really the only difference I see from a specs perspective, and not a huge difference. Now when I took a look and compared the other specs, the Deco XE70 Pro still has a coverage range of up to 7,200 square feet using the 3-device system. And it can still have the capability to connect up to 200 devices, which is identical to the XE75 Pro from the previous review. Now one thing that I didn't mention in the previous video that I wanted to highlight in this video is when setting these things up, the spacing between each of the different units does matter. In order to connect and maximize the 6 GHz band for your backhaul, where you place each unit is very important. Since the 6 GHz band has a much shorter range than both the 5 and the 2.4 GHz band. In order to maximize the full benefits of this system, you should have Wi-Fi 6E capable devices. Now that's not to say that you can't use your ordinary non-Wi-Fi 6E devices with it, since it is backward compatible and should work with all Wi-Fi devices. I'm just saying if you want to maximize the speeds and use that full bandwidth, then you're definitely going to want to use and connect Wi-Fi 6E enabled devices. Now setup of the system remains to be fairly easy and requires you to just plug in each device starting with the one that you're designating as the main unit and then connecting it to your internet. Now this is another thing that makes this mesh system really easy to install. Every unit is identical and each serves as an access point within the mesh system itself and gives you the ability to connect your modem to any of the units in the mesh system. That's all thanks to this self-adapting AI, which allows the system to adapt and reconfigure itself for optimum connectivity. Now once the primary unit is connected and active, all you have to do is download the tplink app to add each unit one by one to form the mesh. Now keep in mind that you may have to experiment a little on placement to make sure that you're getting the best signal and connection between each unit. Now again, this mesh system uses the all-new Wi-Fi 6E standard, opening up the 6 GHz spectrum in addition to 160 MHz channels. It allows for more reliability, connectivity, and speed due to less congestion. Now this allows for more efficient video streaming, gaming, and high bandwidth transfers, because by default, the 6 GHz band is used as the dedicated backhaul to link the different units in the mesh together. And because this is a tri-band system, it has the additional bandwidth to use from the 6 GHz channel as well for additional connectivity and speed. Now one thing that you might want to consider that I also want to call out is if you want full use of the bandwidth for all 3 bands, you may want to consider getting a triple band Wi-Fi 6E mesh system, which comes with additional 2.5 GHz ports on the back, so you can set up a wired backhaul, which frees up all 3 bands for your needs, for your data, for your bandwidth. But then again, that is a whole different story for another time. Now also, another thing that I think is worth mentioning is unlike the previous XE75 mesh system that I reviewed, which comes in a Pro and non-Pro version, the XE70 only comes in a Pro variant, which I think is nice because it takes a lot of the guessing out of it, since most of us prefer the Pro features. Okay, so now that we've talked about the minor differences of the Wi-Fi 6E Deco mesh system and what you can expect, let's test out the speed. Okay guys, so for this part of the test, I am going to switch to my handheld camera so that we can walk around the house to test how strong the signal is for this test Wi-Fi network I set up using the XE70 Pro mesh system. Now, from a placement perspective, I just placed all 3 units where I thought we would get the best coverage for the entire house for this test. So they definitely aren't optimally placed. So there is a possibility that after I shoot this video that I may go back and replace these units in new locations to make sure that I've got the best coverage and the best placements of the units themselves. But for right now, I think it'll suffice for the test itself to see just how strong signal strength is between different units within the mesh network. So for this test, we are currently in my studio office where I have set up one of the units and set it up as the main unit, which is right next to the router for my internet provider. So right now we are going to use the speed test app to test the speed at the different router units or the different mesh units to see how good the signal strength is. So as you can see, I am connected to the XE70 Pro test network that I set up. And I've got the speed test app right here, and we're going to test the first unit, which is the one that is connected directly to the router for my internet provider. Okay, so I'm going to press go. And as you can see, it is pretty fast. Right now I'm clocking at about 1.1 gigs per second. And looks like the upload speed is 115, 116 gigs per second. So just a little slower, which is to be expected. Okay, so with that in mind, we are now going to move closer to the second unit, which is near my wife's office on the second floor of our house. And it is in the hallway, so here we are. And we are just going to get right next to this unit here. So this is the unit right here where we're going to test the speed for this one. And it's a little bit of ways from the other one with a couple of walls in the way. So let's go ahead and test this speed. So we'll see how fast this goes. Okay, so we're seeing about an average of 550. It's kind of slowing down. So about 500 gigs or 500 megabits per second, sorry. So just a little bit slower, but again, that's to be expected because there is a lot of walls and electronics, which will definitely impact the speed. The upload speed is a lot slower, so about 12 megabits per second. Okay, so now third unit, we're going downstairs and we are going to see how fast and how stable the connection is. So right now I see I'm still connected to the Wi-Fi. But I am going to place, I did place this unit here in our kitchen, and we are going to test the speed downstairs now. Okay. Okay, and the speed is actually faster at this third unit downstairs away from the main and second unit. So about 550 megabits per second from a download perspective, and about 115 from an upload perspective. So actually that's pretty good. It seems it got better the farther away I got from the other units, at least faster than the second unit that's really close. What that tells me is, they're not optimally placed, and I'll probably have to, figure out where to place these after this video. Okay, and just for testing's sake, we're gonna go outside and see what the signal strength is, with a little bit more distance and just being outdoors. Okay, so I'm gonna close the door. Okay, so we're gonna test the speed outside, and it is hot outside. Okay, so speed-wise, we are seeing 500 or 600 Mbps, and it's going up to about 630. So about 626 download speed and about 75 download speed, so 626 upload speed and about 75 or 626 download speed and about 75 upload speed. So as you can see, it's got pretty good range, even though there's a bunch of doors, walls, and electronics, just in the way. So overall, I'd say it's pretty good that I'm getting these speeds, even though there's no unit out here. So just a couple of different things, but overall I'm pretty pleased with the speeds at the default settings and how it's just working just simply by plugging the devices into the router and setting up the initial mesh without really worrying about where I place these units. Now let's also talk about some other functions, specs, and use cases for this hardware. Now first of all, you can set up independent 2.4, 5 gigahertz, and 6 gigahertz wireless networks, which allows you to specify which devices can connect in and at what speeds. For example, most smart home devices which require a 2.4 gigahertz connection and rely both on distance and a stable connection versus speed, that's where I would use a 2.4 gigahertz band. Now, on the other hand, if you are a user that prefers speed and efficiency over distance, you may want to set up an independent 5 gigahertz and or a 6 gigahertz network, which allows for faster connectivity and throughput of up to 2400 Mbps transfer rates. And then another thing that's great about this mesh system is that it does support WPA3 security encryption and is IPv6 compatible, meaning better security and control of your internal network. And then of course, lastly, the ability to connect up to 2 to 3 devices directly to each of these access points independently is always a nice feature. Now, as you can see, this mesh works amazingly well, at least for me. And not only does it look like the more expensive XE75 Pro mesh system, but it does all of this in a surprisingly small and lightweight form factor and at a much more affordable cost. Now, if you're interested in purchasing this 3-pack or one of the other variants of this Deco XE70 Pro mesh system from tplink, I'll leave a link to it in the description section below. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and as usual, I appreciate you taking the time to check out my video. I'd appreciate it if you support this channel by clicking that like button and subscribing. Now, I'm working with tplink to see if I can get my hands on their Wi-Fi 7 mesh system to test out and review on this channel. So please make sure you ring that bell icon to get notified when I post that video and any other new content. Until next time, see ya.